So, this is an interesting one because I think a lot of people look to NVD and they think of it as some government entity, right? In the United States, and it's going to be foolproof and it's going to run and it's always going to be operational and functional. First off, like you're dealing with the government, and who's been around the government or worked with the government, that's not how it works. It's an organization like any other, often with its own challenges and setbacks. In this case, what happened was the NVD, much like the U.S. federal government more broadly, contracts a large amount of the work out. And they had a lapse of what it seemed to be. First, they had some technical issues, right, of the volume of CVEs coming in and needing to be enriched due to better vulnerability research, more software, more CNAs, you name it, right? It's a lot of things that are contributing to that. And then obviously like a legacy kind of program and the architecture that helped sustain it. But then they had some contractual lapses, it seemed. Where the vendor that was supporting, I think there was a lapse in the contract. They had to award a new contract to a new vendor. They made some public promises with regard to burning down the backlog of CVEs. But as you see, that hasn't happened. Whether there'll be any kind of consequence or impact to the vendor and or the NVD as part of that, I'm not sure. That backlog continues to grow rapidly, and it's a challenging thing because on one hand, people are like, well, hey, it's not reliable. It's not the data is not great. They'll start to seek out alternatives like OSV and GitHub security advisories and all these other alternatives out there. But that actually creates its own challenge now, because instead of kind of one vulnerability database, you have many disparate multiple vulnerability databases that might have duplicative data, contradictory data. You need to kind of monitor and maintain feeds from all of them and kind of rationalize it across your portfolio of applications and software and systems. So it creates its own problem. I wish there was one authoritative source that was, highly functional, efficient, comprehensive in terms of the data quality and integrity, things of that nature. But that's not the reality we have right now because it's a complicated space. I hope they address the issue with the NVD because so many people do rely on it, and it was such a big problem, when it outright stopped working. But that backlog is growing. So what that means is everyone who's downstream, using widely used vulnerability scanning tools that rely on the NVD, for example, they may be blind to different vulnerabilities in their environment, assuming they even have an accurate, system or software or asset inventory, those type of things. If they're scanning all of that and it's missing enriched CVEs for vulnerabilities that they may have, they may be blind to those risks. So not only are they dealing with, we saw, I think it was 40,000 plus CVEs in 2024. So the exponential growth. Shout out to Gary Gamblin, a vulnerability researcher who always puts great information out on this, but double-digit exponential vulnerability growth, right? In 2024, like the years prior, same thing. It's growing faster than people can keep up. So the vulnerability backlogs keep growing. We have better vulnerability researchers. We have people who are using, Gen AI and LLMs to start to kind of identify vulnerabilities at a scale that maybe we couldn't do previously.